Hello and welcome. This is episode 5 of the True Crime podcast, Apple for the Teacher. My name is Anna Thomas, and I hope you will enjoy the stories I have for you today. Firstly, before I go on to the stories, I would like to give a couple of shout-outs. Hello to Amy and Cassandra, who sent me lovely emails with some positive feedback and encouragement on the podcast. I am certainly not a big-name podcaster with a large production crew behind me. It's just little old me at home telling some stories with my cat sleeping on my lap, as she's doing right now. So thank you so much for your kind words. I would love for more of you to get in touch with me and let me know what you think of the podcast. You can also suggest stories that you know for me to cover. I'm sure if you're a teacher or work in the school system that you have some great stories of your own to share. You can also comment and leave your opinions on the Apple for the Teacher Facebook page and also join the Facebook group where we can interact privately with each other. Just click on the link that says Visit Group on the Facebook page where you can request to join the group, answer a few simple questions, and then wait for your membership to be approved. If you would like to get in touch, my email is applefortheteacherpodcast@gmail.com. I have also created an Instagram page as well, which you might want to have a look at. So let's start with a preview of the stories today. Story 1 is The Bad Apple and is called Gay Bunny. A teacher reads a storybook about a bunny. There's no harm in that, right? Story 2 is The Good Apple and is called The T-Shirt. Taylor wore a T-shirt to school that caused a stir. So, what was all the fuss about? Just let me explain what I mean by good apple and bad apple. All the stories in this podcast feature something to do with the school system. The bad apples are people within the school system who have committed crimes or are people who have committed crimes against them in the school system. The good apples are those wonderful positive stories about people who have acted with the utmost integrity or have gone through traumatic events but have managed to rise above their adversity. Not all the stories are about crimes, but about some of the weird and wonderful things that I have discovered about what goes on in schools. And as a teacher myself, it has certainly been eye-opening. So, let's get into the first Bad Apple story. We are going to look at 2 storybooks which feature rabbits. Rabbits have been central characters in children's books since forever. Although these 2 books have a connection to each other, only one of them has caused some controversy, which will be the focus of this episode. So, the first book is called Marlon Brando's Day in the Life of the Vice President. This is a patriotic picture book about the real pet rabbit owned by the Vice President of America, Mike Pence. His rabbit's name is Marlon Brando and was named after the actor Marlon Brando. The affectionate name given to Marlon is Botus, B-O-T-U-S, which stands for Bunny of the United States. This real rabbit has become a national celebrity in America. He has appeared at official White House events. He also rides on Air Force Two, which is the plane that all US vice presidents travel on. He also has a popular Instagram account and has become a beloved member of the Trump-Pence administration. On Christmas Day in 2017, Mike Pence's daughter, Charlotte, gave her father, as a present, a homemade book containing a children's story that Charlotte had written herself, in which a rabbit named Marlon Bundo was the main character. Mike was charmed by Charlotte's story and asked her if she'd be willing to publish it. Karen, his wife, illustrated the story. The book was published to raise money for various charities. It's about a bunny's eye view of the Vice President's workday, including riding in his limo, attending meetings, visiting the Capitol, talking to the President on the phone, etc., etc. As of March 2018, the book had sold approximately 100,000 copies. It had also entered the top 10 books on Amazon and was the number 5 children's book on the New York Times bestseller list. Now we go on to the second book, and this is where the controversy starts. It is called A Day in the Life of Marlon Bundo. So as you can see, very similar titles. It was written as a parody to the first book and was created by the writers of the HBO TV show Last Week Tonight, which is hosted by the comedian John Oliver. The story revolves around 2 gay bunnies who fall in love and get married. It's a parody because the Vice President is well known for his opposition to gay marriage and opposition to initiatives to strengthen the legal rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. In 2006, he supported an amendment to the US Constitution that would have prohibited gay marriage, arguing that societal collapse was always brought about following an advent of the deterioration of marriage and family. On his TV show, John Oliver showed both books, but encouraged people to buy his book in order to send Pence a message. In direct comparison to the first book, it had sold approximately 400,000 copies, spent several days at the top-selling book on Amazon, and was the number 6 children's picture book on the New York Times bestseller list. The proceeds were also donated to charity. So, within the same time period, the second book had outsold the Vice President's book. So, that's a brief background on the books. Now we need to go to Florida, in America, where a teacher read the Gay Bunny book to his class of first graders. The teacher was then investigated after parents complained that the content was not appropriate for first graders. One child had gone home and asked their parents, "Is it okay if 2 male bunnies get married?" Ideally, I would like to read the book to you so that you can get an understanding of why the book caused some controversy. However, this is not possible due to copyright. So I'm just going to give you a brief summary of the content instead. So, Marlon Bundo, the rabbit, lives with his grandpa, who is the Vice President of the US, Mike Pence. The illustrations throughout the book show the rabbit wearing a rainbow-coloured bow tie. Marlon talks about how lonely he is living in the mansion, until one day he goes out into the garden and sees another rabbit who he describes as the most beautiful bunny he had ever seen. He had floppy ears and the bushiest tail. They introduced themselves to each other. His name was Wesley. They started hopping around together, having a lovely time in each other's company. Marlon realised with Wesley that the house didn't seem lonely anymore, and it was the best hop he had ever had. They both agreed they never wanted to hop without each other again and decided to get married. But then, A stink bug heard them and said, "You can't get married." The stink bug was in charge and made all the rules. He said, "Boy bunnies don't marry boy bunnies. Boy bunnies have to marry girl bunnies." But Marlon and Wesley declared their love for one another. Stink bug said, "This is the way it has always been. You are different, and different is bad." The other animals spoke up to say how each of them was different in their own way and that different is special. They decided to take a vote of who's in charge. The stink bug gets voted out, and Marlon and Wesley were able to get married. So, now after summarising the book, that you can see the book celebrates inclusiveness and democracy and embraces same-sex marriage. It has a positive message about celebrating who you are and loving who you want. It also pokes fun at Vice President Mike Pence, giving the stink bug his hair colour and style. Pence is portrayed in the book as oppressive. There are many videos of people reading this book, and if you'd like to actually see it yourself, I'm going to put a video on the Facebook page if you'd like to watch the video yourself. The book has been used to send a pro-LGBT message and has raised money for various charities, including AIDS. So, now back to the first grade teacher. Parents complained about finding out their 6-year-olds had been read the book, which had not been approved by the school authorities. Some parents felt that while the book is about acceptance, they didn't believe the politics and sexual innuendo in the book were appropriate for first graders. Some parents said if it were an approved book, it wouldn't have been an issue. Here's one quote. "Me, personally, I wouldn't mind. But I'm a very open kind of person and I don't mind talking to kids about that stuff. But at the same time, a little heads up would have been nice. That's for me to decide at home what I want to teach my child and what I feel that they are able to handle." The school district investigated the matter. 2 parents, as well as a grandparent, had complained. The teacher concerned had no prior discipline issues, and the district found that he should have asked before reading a book that wasn't part of the curriculum. The teacher apologised, saying it was meant to provide a lesson on tolerance. He said he had overheard 2 students talking about 2 women wanting to marry and thought the book would provide a positive teaching moment. It was concluded that the teacher had a momentary lapse of professional judgment, but had caused no harm, and that the reading of the book had meant to engage, not upset his students. One parent stated she was satisfied with the inquiry and she appreciated the teacher's dedication and teaching methods. However, the other parents were dissatisfied, with the grandfather in particular saying that the book was pornographic and complained that his grandson's safety was in question. The school then moved that child into another class. A few days later, the family caused a disruption at the school. The police were called and trespassing notices were issued. So, if I look at the story, in my opinion, it clearly comes down to the lack of judgment on behalf of the teacher who read the book to the students. It's not about the gay issue. It's about requesting approval first. And the usual procedure is to get parental consent. When it comes to sex education in schools, parental consent is always sought. And then the parents have the final choice to be made whether they want their children to be involved. And this is the same way that it should have been in this case. As teachers, we need to be very aware of what we expose children to. We need to refrain from sharing our own personal opinions and beliefs on a number of issues. For example, at school, we have religious education, which is provided by external agencies. It would be improper for me to share my own religious beliefs. Similarly, during health lessons, it would be improper for me to share the fact that I'm vegetarian. Can you imagine a parent's reaction if their child comes home and says that their teacher told them to stop eating meat because it's bad? Before I finish this story, there is further to add regarding the Gay Bunny book. Some criticise the book, saying, "It's unfortunate that anyone would feel the need to ridicule an educational children's book and turn it into something controversial and partisan." By contrast, the Vice President's wife and daughter responded to the book very well. Charlotte even bought a copy of the book. However, as the sales of the Gay Bunny book rose, the Vice President's wife's attitude began to change. She began discussing a lawsuit and stated, "John Oliver has stolen crucial pieces of our story and my art. Plagiarism of this sort would get you thrown out of school, and I won't stand for it either. Unless he publicly apologises and immediately ceases selling that disgraceful piece of propaganda, I'll see him in court." Oliver was advised to apologise and let it go, as he had made his point. However, he continued to maximise the book's public profile and said he would never apologise. As all of this happened in 2018, I've been trying to find out if there have been any updates on the lawsuit, but I haven't found anything yet. So I'm just going to keep searching in the future, and I'll let you know if there's an outcome. One other piece of information that I have found out about the Gay Bunny book is as follows. The American Library Association and the Office for Intellectual Freedom release an annual report on the 10 most challenged book titles in the country, based on censorship in schools and libraries. The Gay Bunny book came in second place for the most banned books of 2018. In first place was a book called George. It is said to encourage children to clear browser history and change their bodies using hormones, and mentioning dirty magazines, also describing male anatomy, creating confusion, and it also includes a transgender character. But what surprised me was the book in third place, which is called the Captain Underpants series. If you're a teacher, you will definitely be familiar with this series, which has been around for a number of years and has been extremely successful. It's been criticised for its toilet humour, for students playing pranks at school, and for jokes about gas, poop, wedgies, and bath. But these are precisely the things that appeal to boys. And these books have been very successful in getting boys hooked onto reading, who were previously reluctant readers. So, what's the harm in that? So, that's the end of the first story. Let's now go on to the next story. I've chosen this story because it complements the Gay Bunny story, as it also deals with the theme of sexual orientation. The story is called The T-Shirt. Taylor was a 16-year-old openly gay student from California in the US. She came to school wearing a T-shirt that read, "Nobody knows I'm a lesbian." She was at the mall when she saw the shirt and she knew she had to buy it. The wearing of the shirt was ironic, as she was open about being a lesbian, having come out the year before. She was supported by her family and friends, so she felt safe wearing it to school. She said, quote, "The shirt made me laugh because pretty much everybody knows I'm a lesbian." She had been complimented on her shirt by other students on the day that she wore it. But when a teacher noticed the shirt, she was sent to speak with the vice principal. She walked down to his office, knowing it was probably about the shirt, but wishing it wasn't. She started to get upset because it was dawning on her that maybe she wasn't going to be fully able to be herself at school. She had developed her own personal mantra, which she carried with her into his office. "I'm not scared to be who I am. I'm proud to be who I am. I'm not scared to be who I am. I'm proud to be who I am." She was not surprised when told to change her shirt, on the grounds that she was not allowed to display her sexuality on clothing, and that it violated the dress code. Taylor refused to change and, with her parents' permission, went home. That night at home, she was adamant that she knew her rights and that there was nothing wrong with her shirt. But she also knew if she wore it again, she could be suspended for willful defiance. Over the next few days, both she and her father met with the school multiple times. She argued there was nothing in the dress code that prohibited the word lesbian or gay or straight or anything else about sexual orientation. She was told displaying personal choices and beliefs on clothing was not allowed, and also that it violated the dress code because it was disruptive and could be gang-related. Furthermore, she was told the shirt was promoting sex and an open invitation to sex. The school didn't budge. So, Taylor felt she had no choice but to take a stand and sue the school on the grounds of free speech. She contacted the American Civil Liberties Union of Northern California, and they agreed to take the case. Taylor expected the school would reverse their decision pretty quickly, but they didn't. For months, while her lawyers worked hard on the case, she still wasn't allowed to wear the shirt to school. This meant that every day she went to school knowing that lesbian, this simple, inoffensive word describing a core part of her identity, was supposedly a problem. A settlement was finally reached, but despite denying wrongdoing, the district and administrators agreed to change the dress code. The updated dress code now means students cannot be disciplined for wearing garments which support their own or a classmate's identity based on gender, race, sexual orientation, religion, or other characteristics. Her lawyer stated, quote, "Students don't leave their rights to free speech at the schoolhouse gates. At the end of the day, the law on this is very clear, that public schools can't censor the personal beliefs of students just because they think it might be controversial. Being a lesbian is an important part of her identity, and that she shouldn't be censored by the school. Freedom of speech is a bedrock principle of our democracy, and censorship teaches students exactly the wrong lesson on what America is about. We are pleased to see the district make these changes." As part of the settlement, the district agreed to let Taylor wear her "Nobody Knows I'm a Lesbian" shirt to school and to take reasonable measures to protect her from any known harassment or bullying by other students or any district employee in reaction to the shirt or for bringing the lawsuit. The district also agreed to provide training to its administrators on student free speech and expression, and to pay the American Civil Liberties Union, which represented her, an amount of $63,000 in attorney's fees and costs. A statement from the school district said, quote, "Students continue to be supported in their right for self-expression in all of our high schools. Our number one priority continues to be the ability to keep our kids safe physically and emotionally." Taylor said she was very happy with the result. Quote, "I'm very proud of who I am. That's the whole reason I wore that shirt, and it's the reason I'll keep wearing it, because after months of fighting this censorship battle, we won. Standing up to my school was really hard to do, but I'm so happy that I did, because the right to free speech is a big deal for everyone. At the end of the day, I just want other kids to know that it's okay to be yourself at school. It's okay to stand up for what you believe in, even if what you believe is controversial, even if what you believe in makes your teacher or principal uncomfortable." So that's the end of the story. If you are a teacher, I'd love to hear if you have any stories from your school about dress codes or any issues with what students wear. You can let me know by emailing applefortheteacherpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to include your stories in a coming episode. Now, just before I finish this episode, I'd like to share some things with you about what happened while recording this podcast. I really had no idea how difficult it would be to do the recording in terms of just noise level around you and outside. Before I start recording, I need to make sure of a few things. Firstly, I record when there's no one home, so obviously the microphone doesn't pick up any sounds. And the microphone is really sensitive, so it can even pick up a bird call outside. I've also got a dog and a cat, and I need to wait for them to be asleep. A few times the dog has started barking, and the cat, which is a Siamese, she's very loud, and so she'll start meowing. We also have dogs next door that bark quite a lot. So many times I've started recording and then the dogs go off. My cat starts meowing, or even the neighbour's chickens start laying eggs, and you can really hear it clearly. Then someone comes to the house and rings the doorbell, or once even a flock of cockatoos, which are really loud birds. If you come from Australia and you know what they're like, cockatoos are very loud. And a whole flock of them came over the house. So I had to start all over again and do the recording again. Today, the neighbours had a gardening crew come just as I was about to start recording. They start doing lawn mowing and whippersnipping, and sometimes it just gets so frustrated because you think everything's quiet and you think you can go ahead, and then one thing after another starts happening, and sometimes I just have to think I'm just going to have to give up today because I just can't keep re-editing the episode all the time. So if ever the podcast episodes are late coming out, then this might be why, because I really haven't been able to do the recording. I can only record on certain days when I'm not working. So when that window of opportunity is gone, then I have to wait for another opportunity at some other point. So when I sit down, I have to try to cross my fingers and hope for the best. Otherwise, it just takes a lot more time in editing the episode. Today, I've been able to get through without any interruptions. So, yippee! So, I'd like to now give you a preview of the next episode, episode 6. It's called Rock, Paper, Scissors and Bad Hair Day. Here's a summary. Why was a teacher cutting a student's hair while singing the US national anthem? A teacher trims a student's hair for school photo day. Any harm in that? So both of the episodes have a hair theme, and you'll find out what that's all about if you listen to the next episode. So to end today, I'm going to leave you with this quote. Teachers don't teach for the income. Teachers teach for the outcome. Bye for now, and remember to be a good apple.